this video, I wanted to have a little chat about a topic that's been on my mind for a few months now, just based on the books that I've been reading. As you may have guessed from the title, it has to do with what makes something YA and what makes something, I guess, more of an adult book with a younger or child protagonist. And this was really called to my attention by a discussion that I was having with some folks at my local library, and where we got into talking about what books that I had read recently, and very specifically we were talking about YA books, and I had rattled off a couple that I had recently read, and one of the women who was one of the librarians mentioned that those particular books, which I had picked up from that library, were filed in the adult section. They weren't added to the YA section despite the age of their main characters. And I had immediately grouped them in my head as YA because they were younger protagonists. But according to the library, they didn't belong there, and it really had me thinking about what makes a book YA. So I have a few examples, one of them very, very fresh for me, the Flavia de Luce mystery series. If you have been following this channel for pretty much any length of time that is longer than 1 month, you are probably aware of how much I love the Flavia de Luce mystery series by Alan Bradley. This is the third one. I'm reading it right now. This is pretty much like a savvier version of Nancy Drew. She's also English. She is an 11-year-old girl who happens to stumble across a lot of mysteries in her tiny little town and helps out the constabulary there figure out what the deal is. This is the third. The first is The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie. There's probably a review that I've done on it somewhere if this is intriguing to you. Anyway, the point is that Flavia is 11 years old, and this is an adult book. Similarly, a book that I also recently have read, We Have Always Lived in the Castle. The main character in this is 18, but this is most certainly not a YA or children's book, despite the age of Mary Catherine. And it's interesting to me, particularly with this one, because 18 really seems to be an age that most YA novels would broach. I find that the characters in YA are anywhere from about 13 to 18, I think. For YA, there's that real, like, coming-of-age age. The content and theme of this I most certainly would not qualify as YA, despite the fact that she is 18. It is very, very dark and not like a YA book at all. And lastly, and I apologize for the giant, giant face on the jacket of this book, John Irving's A Prayer for Owen Meany. This is quite possibly, I think, one of my top 15? Yeah, let's go, 15. Top 15 books of all time. A Prayer for Owen Meany, and it follows a young boy who I believe is writing from the perspective of him reflecting as an older adult, but most of the story takes place between him and his best friend Owen Meany when they are children and growing into teenagers. So this is also an adult book, but again, the characters are not really adults yet. So my question, thinking about all of these books, is what makes something YA? For instance, where does Harry Potter fall in the category of YA? I never really thought of it as YA when I was reading it, but I guess I was at the right age to just sort of think of it as a book. I know they were originally written as children's books, and they got more complex and darker, and then sort of expanded into this, I guess, what was the burgeoning genre of popular YA that we know today. I don't really classify Harry Potter in my mind as a YA series, even though perhaps it maybe is. It's always kind of got its other little subset for me. There are 3 or 4 main ideas, I think, that work to create a YA book, and one is the age range, the whole child, teen, coming of age, adult, almost type range that I think is really particular to the YA formula, if you will. That's going to make a lot of people upset, but I kind of think that there is a formula. Also, the content, the characters have to be going through some sort of coming of age, coming to terms with themselves or others' sort of internal struggle in order for it to be a YA book. That's a pretty broad generalization, but I think at the teenage, young adult level, it's very, very heavy in the mindset of those kind of characters, and that splays out onto the page, which also sort of adjusts to the theme of the book, which is coming of age. And finally, I think it's also the author's intent. I think if you intend to set out to write a YA book, you can do so. But if you are intending to write one of these other books and just have a younger character, that's also a possibility. So if you have particular thoughts on this, I would love to hear them. Where do you draw the line between young protagonist and YA, and what makes them separate? Is it one of the factors or qualities that I have named? Is it something else that's sort of indescribable? Where do you qualify a book as YA, and where do you qualify it as either children's or other adult literature? There used to be this thing on YouTube called video responses, and I don't think we joined in time while those were still an actual thing that you could post and they would show up beneath the video, but that feature unfortunately is no more, although when I was watching YouTube before we started making videos, it was a real awesome thing. So if you have thoughts, I would encourage you actually to make a video response to this and tell me what you think about this topic. If you don't want to make a video response, that's super cool too. Comments are there for a reason. Commenting on comments, that's something we can do. Let me know what you think about this. Thank you as always for watching, and we will see you very soon.